Fired Up Sports network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on Fired Up Sports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
Swinging a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup for the lead. Yes! Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
Oh, well, good morning. It's Drunk on the Phils. It's a beautiful spring day. Eric, you were down at the stadium last night. It was a beautiful night for baseball. Just the season is kind of like starting to settle itself out. You know, got a lot of good stuff to talk about. But listen, want to give people the heads up on our sponsor, Philly Drinkers. They sent us over a nice little care package of of being able to pick out some items. Eric, you got one that I didn't see. It was a Ben Franklin Philly drinking T-shirt.
Yeah, it's fun. I always like when the Sixers had remember the Sixers had that Ben Franklin. There was a hat that I really liked, and I could never find one that I like the snapback, and for whatever reason, it was always a fitted one, so I never got one. I'm like, that kind of reminded me of that a little bit. So I just kind of like that logo, but I like the color of it too. So we'll.
Yeah, I was telling Mark yesterday. I got one of the sweatshirt blankets. It's the Eggles. They have Rich got one of it's the powder blue. It says "Hit That, John." They got some really cool stuff. But listen, use the code Drunk on Broad 15. You can go over there, get yourself a little discount for us, a little discount for you, and go rep that. They got some really cool stuff. Eric, talk to me about this team right now. Lineup still kind of sussing itself out. The thing that I am most impressed, and I think we heard a lot about it early in the season. This starting pitching is really the thing that is going to carry this team. It's the reason why they're only 1.5 games behind the Mets. It's a reason that they're up. You know, they've got a little bit of separation from the Braves. Braves haven't been playing well. But talk about this starting rotation, because it just seems like night after night after night. And I know, Nola has had his struggles, goes on, he's on the IL for a little bit. Talk to me about this starting rotation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually better than I originally anticipated. I mean,
yeah,
I knew that would be our strength coming into this season. I mean, you know what you're getting with Wheeler every fifth day. Sanchez has, continued kind of being the way he is. Rangers looked really good. He had that one bad pitch the other night that unfortunately gave up 3 runs. But he's after his first outing, he's really looked like he's settled in. And I mean, I think my favorite right now is Jesus Luzardo. He is just so fun to watch. We talked about it when we acquired him, but I was excited about him, but I did not think we were going to get this. I mean, I kind of figured coming to a better, when I say a better organization, I mean, obviously in terms of the team, but also in terms of player development, and our pitching program is just great with Caleb Coughlin. So I figured they might be able to tap in and get a little bit more out of Luzardo, but man, it's happening quick. So he's been awesome. Nola's had his struggles. I don't know if the injury had anything to do with his abysmal outing the other night. I hope that was the reason why, because he's had a couple of good outings here and there, but he just hasn't really put it all together consistently. But yeah, I mean the starting staff, you couldn't be happier with it.
No, and I sitting down, just being able to sit down last night and watch Wheeler. right? And Wheeler's just dialed in from the first pitch. And you heard Hamels talk a little bit on the broadcast about how they really like to pitch with the shadows because of the advantage. And you can see it's interesting because you can see the pace. He's operating just a little bit faster because he's trying to take advantage of every opportunity, right? And most of those innings early are, I think he had a couple of innings that were under 10 pitches. For him to be able to go in and really take advantage because of how electric his stuff is, like sitting in the high 90s from pitch one. But Luzardo is like, you can't even say like a breath of fresh air. He really is better than advertised. And what he's given to this rotation gives them the flexibility to be able to kind of let, Aaron Nola go to the IL, get himself right. Because his starts have been funky. It's not that he hasn't pitched well. He's pitched well in spurts, but he seems to that he, for whatever reason this year, and it's not just this year, but like he does make those mistakes that are costly, like the walk followed by the home run. Those little costly, it's the combination of mistakes in these short spurts, and it's almost like he gets himself out of that game real quick. Christopher Sanchez has been really impressive. But Jesus Luzardo, almost in that Ranger Suarez, you're getting Ranger Suarez back. Taijuan Walker's probably going to fill into that fifth starter role. But listen, we're going to see a young kid today too.
Can't wait. I've been like just getting any prospect coming up, and I know Abel has had his ups and downs kind of throughout the last season or two. But this year, he's earned a shot this year. He, last year his walk rate was like almost 6 per 9, or over 6 per 9, which is like terrible. He's cut that almost in half. It's down to like 3 per 9 now, which I think is still like a little higher than he probably wants to see and the Phillies want to see, but it's a step in the right direction. So I think he's earned it. I mean, he's pitched really well this year so far. He's got a sub-3 ERA to this point through AAA. I don't know how we'll see how he does. I mean, it's the Pirates. They're, not the scariest of offenses. I just think it's unfortunate for him, but it's kind of cool at the same time, right? Fun story to tell people when he, after he retires and everything, that his first major league game is going against Paul Skeens. So
you're right. The fact like you're going to get that opportunity, like really good matchup to kind of be dialed in on, right? To be able to have the opportunity to get an opportunity to pitch in a major, like to make your debut, and then have your opponent be the guy who has done more than enough in his first season to be able to kind of establish himself as a top 5 in Major League Baseball. You're going to be, and I think the other advantage for him right now is he knows that this is just this is not like a come up and prove and see if you can stay. Like he knows that he's just going to come up, have this opportunity. He's going to go back down. That nothing about that is going to be, punitive if anything goes wrong. But I'm curious to see how he approaches this lineup, because this lineup, like outside of like O'Neal Cruz, and Reynolds, like you're going to have opportunities to be able to kind of, put together some outs within this lineup.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's I think this is somewhat calculated in a way, right? Because I mean, they choose him to come up now. That way, he's not facing a more difficult offense like when they go out to Sacramento to play the A's or go out to Coors Field to play the Rockies. I think this is like a perfect time. Get him acclimated, get him a big league outing under his belt. Because I mean, he the thing, I don't think we've really been able to say this much about the Phillies in a long time anyway, is just like the pitching depth right now is really good. I mean,
pretty good
with the fact that Walker is pitching as well as he is, both in the starting role and out of the bullpen. I mean, that gives you so much more flexibility. Having Painter now getting 5 innings, 70 some pitches, like he's getting closer and closer and closer. Again, no rush. Like I don't want to rush the guy back, but just getting a guy like Abel coming up, who was in the top 3 organizational prospects a couple of years ago. there's
Yeah.
been a lot of a lot of buzz around him, and I'm really excited to see what he's got because he definitely has really good stuff. It's all about if he can locate his pitches.
Yeah, it's all about command, right? His quote unquote stuff has never been questioned. It's
Right.
all about him being able to control pitches and locate pitches and not make mistakes. Um, I'm just curious at like you have this glut of starting pitching and how um, that we know that Painter is on the horizon, right? We know that that's coming sometime probably in July. So we're probably what about 8 weeks away from that. What's the how do you put you in charge? How do you approach the ability for them to be able to, when they do bring him up? How do you handle his slot in the staff?
It's really tricky because I don't like the idea of a permanent 6-man rotation. Going through it like in August or September, just getting your guys like an extra day here or there, I think is beneficial in terms of health. But I don't like a long-term 6-man rotation because it stretches your bullpen really thin.
Yeah,
Zach Wheeler just has straight up said he doesn't like getting that extra day. He's regimented, so you got to kind of figure out what you're doing there. I don't know. Like, there's you can't move Suarez to the bullpen because he's on a contract year, and Scott Boras would freak out
it's true.
if you're
Very
moving him
true.
around like that. There's no one else to really move around. So I think what you got to do is you do a 6-man rotation for a little bit. That you don't want anyone to get hurt, obviously, but you know how starting pitching is. Like, someone's probably going to end up, hopefully nothing serious, but a back thing or like Nola, like a freak
Right.
ankle type injury or something. But you got to work him in there. He's good enough. The thing is like next year is where we're really looking because I hate to say it, I love Ranger, but I don't think Ranger's coming back. So I think but you got to get Painter ready. I think to be ready to fill in that 5th spot next year. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that we've kind of tossed around some ideas about him, especially in the offseason, thinking that like, if you know that the writing is on the wall, that he's the probability of him leaving is pretty high. Is he part of a trade piece to bring in something else that you need, some other big name, whether it's center field, whether it's whatever the need is at the moment, right? But I always go back. You brought up a really great point that like starting pitching is so hard to find, and that you have, like in this case, you're going to have 5, 6 really, really good guys that you can kind of go to. And the thing that I think about is like, is this a plot for them when they get to the playoffs? Because we know that when they get to the playoffs, we know that the rotation shortens. And does that shortened rotation now add a lot of depth to the bullpen?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so funny how different like a postseason series is versus the regular season, because then you can get a guy like Ranger pitching out of the bullpen in the postseason to me is not an issue. Like, I mean, that's, you put guys in who you need to get outs, and the fact that he's versatile, I think that might even be a thing that Boras could then use and be like, hey, look, if your team makes it to the postseason, you could use him in multiple roles. I don't want Painter pitching out of the bullpen during the regular season, but if it comes up and it's the 8th inning and you need a guy to throw some freaking heat in there,
right?
Then get Painter in there in that scenario, absolutely. But that just then moves, like, everyone else in the bullpen kind of gets moved down a slot, which then just adds incredible depth there too. So it's great in that scenario. It's
right.
just the
And
regular
I
season
think like if you have the opportunity to have that, like if your 4-man rotation is some kind, like, and you can kind of see who your opponent, like whoever the opponent is it more right-handed or left-handed, right? And say like, all right, for this series, these are going to be the guys that are going to start. These guys are going to be in the bullpen. And I think that versatility of being able to go kind of series to series and go a la carte and say like, all right, in this series, like we're going to just pile lefty on lefty on lefty and know that like we can intersperse Wheeler in there and you know, and maybe Nola is the fourth starter, and you use him if you need him. But then to be able to have a guy like, and as much as I'm kind of laughing saying it, but like Ranger Suarez and Andrew Painter slot to the bullpen, and now you have those arms combined with Strom and Alvarado, and Kirkring, and like it just I think there's a bigger picture here happening. I am curious. So talk about the lineup a little bit, because the lineup and in particular Stott's move to the front of the lineup and how that's helped kind of settle the balance of this lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's funny. At the beginning of this season, there was a lot of inconsistency, and it was very frustrating because it was a carryover from how last year ended. But I think we're starting to see now, like from top to bottom, there's really no one who I'm like, oh, this person's an automatic out. Like back in April, every time Alec Boehm came up, I'm like, there couldn't be someone on base, and he's still going to ground a freaking double play. Rojas is actually hitting the ball decently right now. Marsh, since his injury has been better. Stott, I love out of the leadoff role. He's been a little bit. Obviously, last night he had a really good game. He went through that really torrent hot streak. He's kind of cooled off a little bit, but I just like the balance that it kind of puts into the lineup. And you're getting production from everyone, but you're also not getting like top tier production from everyone. Like Harper has not been Bryce. Like he's had a kind of slow start to the season, but he's really, and he hasn't even been like that bad. It's just the expectation is so much higher. Romuto has been better, I think, than I was expecting. Not great, but you're also looking at an aging catcher who plays way too much. So
I mean, he did have that stretch where he was just hitting. If there was a guy on, he was hitting into a double play every single time.
Yep.
And the power numbers are not there for a team that is supposed to be like relying on the home run.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of Schwarber with 15, right? Like you're talking, Harper's got 7, and then the third guy on that list is Max Kepler with 5.
Yeah.
Right. You've got Castellanos at Real Muto and Stott with 4, Boehm and Turner with 2. Like the power numbers are not there. So it's like, and it's inevitable that like the summer's going to hit, the weather's going to be warm, ball's going to start flying out of there. There's been a bunch in this last stretch of games that they've played at home. You've seen that there's been a lot of balls that like in the middle of the summer, that ball's 10 rows deep. And for whatever reason now, it's just dying like right at the wall. But is there any concern with Harper? Is there concern that there's something going on that he's not right? That like, because something just something seems off.
I don't think I'm concerned about him. I think, I think it's just, could be chalked up to a slow start. I think actually, what did I see? I saw something this morning that I think in the 2 games in this series, and he's been on base 7 of his 8 plate appearances. So like, I think it's going in the right direction. He was doing a lot of like almost like the Castellanos thing, like chasing all of those low and away pitches. Yeah. It's like he's swinging for the fences every single time, and he just has such like a hard, aggressive swing that if he makes contact, it's going to go out. But he's just got to be a little more selective, I think, at the plate. I think he's trying to do too much right now. But with him, it's going to happen. He's going to go through a stretch, hopefully sooner rather than later, where you're going to be like, oh, there's Bryce, he's back. But yeah, you made a great point about the weather. I think we're really just getting into like the part of, well, although I just looked at the forecast this week, so it's be cold and rainy again. But we're at the point now, like last night, nice warm night out, the ball's going to travel a little bit, but we're getting to that point soon. So I think we're going to start seeing the power numbers start, escalating. But like the thing is with this team, it's funny because it's always been for the last few years, they either hit home runs or strike out. And now it's like they're finally doing what everyone's wanted to do. And it's like, where's the home runs now? Which you need, right? You need that balance. But the other night, I think it was really interesting when whatever inning it was the night where there was the rain delay for no rain, when it was the 6th or 7th, when they had one hit but scored all those runs because they were seeing pitches, they were walking. Like that's what you want to see from this team. That's like just have a good approach when you go to the plate, and eventually those the home runs are going to start happening if you could just get that going. But that's what we want to see from this team:
Yeah,
patience
I think
and
that that's the positive that I've seen out of this last stretch, especially this series with Pittsburgh. You're seeing significantly better at bats. The approach
yeah,
is better. You're seeing pitches better. Um, and I think your point about Harper is is now that you say it makes a lot of sense, right? Like it could just be a case where he is just trying really, really hard. Like he know, and there was that interview that came out that when he was talking to somebody, he's like, "Listen, I'm like 10 days away," and like within that 10 days, he had that little burst of like a couple doubles, a bunch of home runs. It's just kind of going in these waves. He does gets his hair cut. Trying to do, it seems like he's trying to do anything and everything to try to make
yeah.
those changes. But it's I'm curious to see because when they brought in Kepler, it was kind of I questioned it a little bit because you're bringing in another left-handed bat, and you thought they would try to find someone with similar skill sets who could balance out the lineup and hit from the right-hand side. I know that we're kind of long ways away from the trade deadline, but just to kind of have like a macro view, what is if you can envision adding or swapping out a position, what's the position you're looking at today?
Two things. I is Marsh and Rojas have been holding their own, I would say, since the beginning of the season. Marsh started out horribly. They're holding their own, but I still think if you want to like make that push, you still have to get an everyday center fielder.
Yeah,
So I
you got a
think
guy in mind?
I know there's been some people tossing around names like Cedric Mullins has been one that I've seen tossed around a bunch. That wouldn't be a bad one. But
I feel like
I
Cedric
think it's
Mullins is a guy, Eric, that they've been that we've
tied
talked
to.
about for like the last
Yeah.
3-4 seasons.
Yes, and I think now
And
though
then I
the
worry
Orioles are
about that.
finally
Like,
crappy enough.
do I want Cedric Mullins? I want Cedric Mullins from like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But is the guy that I'm getting today going to be the guy that I need?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, is he a huge difference maker? I don't think so. But then again, like you just need a little consistency out of the position, I think. But I mean, look at like we're not getting a superstar, right? We don't necessarily need
Mm-mm.
that. We have the pieces. It's just kind of getting someone who you can kind of rely on a little bit. But the thing is, with the trade deadline, is I think it's still too early to see which teams are going to be sellers, just because we're still a month,
Mm-hmm.
2 months or so away from it. Um, but the other thing I would love to have, and the bullpen has been better, but I still think we need one more bullpen arm for high leverage situations. I mean, Alvarado's been great. Romano's been way better than his start. It's funny. I
Yes.
saw something the other day. April Hoffman was awesome. Romano stunk. Now it's like completely switched. Like Hoffman had
Switch.
like a 16 ERA in May so far, whereas Romano's pitched. I think he's given up one run in like his last 9 innings or something like that. So that's been flopped around. So that's good to see. Hopefully he's found his stuff. Kerkering seems to be settling in a little bit. But the thing is, we talked about bullpen depth for the postseason earlier, but I think you still need it for the regular season. Like Carlos Hernandez needs to not see the mound again. I was kind of excited when they got him just because I knew the stuff he had, but
Yeah.
it's just not there. So getting
Now,
someone else to kind of fill in that role, I think would be really helpful. But adding Taiwan Walker to the bullpen has been really beneficial, but now you're going to lose him because he's going to end up slotting back into the rotation while Nola's out. So I think you still need one more bullpen arm. I don't think you need to go and get a top of the line closer necessarily, but get a solid like setup man, and then it's kind of a revolving door between Alvarado, Romano, and whoever it is they decide to get.
yeah, I mean the holes are not glaring, but there's definitely some room for improvement, right? Like,
Yeah.
it could be addition from within, right? Like when we do flip to the postseason, like we talked about before, guys that are in the starting rotation that aren't going to slot in. That's maybe there are better opportunities for them to help this team pitching out of the bullpen. like we saw with Suarez, or like when he's closing out the game to go to the World Series. Like you have opportunity, you're going to have opportunities like that. But you've got guys at the back end of your bullpen that you don't want in high leverage spots. And I think the more the games matter, I think the less we'll see of those guys. Jordan Romano has been a nice breath of fresh air in this kind of like second phase, kind of working out all those kinks of all the mistakes early. And you're starting to see the production that we saw before he was here. Instead, like the center field, right? Like when you talk about who you're going to add, like I'm looking at like you're talking about a guy who's going to bat at the bottom of your lineup. If it's a guy, if you're adding a guy who's comparable, and I'm thinking about like, can you add a guy that just kind of does a little bit of what both of those guys do? Guys that can get on base, go from first to third, and be able to kind of cover the gaps and kind of play both sides of center field. There's not going to be a team that's going to be out of the playoffs that's going to be looking to get rid of a guy like that. So, I don't know how. I don't like Cedric Mullins is kind of like the guy that kind of fits into all those parameters. I just don't know if he's like you were saying. I don't know if he's a huge upgrade,
Right.
for those guys. And then you're also talking about like what are the prospects that you have to give up to be able to get those guys. So it's like
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yep.
Like what kind of level? Like you saw the level prospect pool that you had to give up to get Luzardo. Like it, I don't think any of the additions to replace center field or in the back end of your bullpen are going to be guys of that level. Now, listen, we also don't know how teams are going to play out, how team seasons are going to play out, what guys are going to kind of shake loose and be available. But I'm curious to see how this team kind of takes shape as we kind of go towards that, towards the trade deadline, towards the middle to the end of the summer, and then how we kind of ramp up for the playoffs. Because you're looking at, is it 5 straight series that they've won? Is it 5 or 6?
Yeah, it's 5. Well, now it'll be 6 because
It'll be 6.
took the first 2 from the Pirates. Yeah.
So right, you're doing what they need to do, right? Taking 2 out of 3 is always going to put you in a really good spot. The shame of it is that like they keep losing, like the one game that they're losing are games that they very easily could have won.
Yeah, they're like right in the mix for so many, and that's why like even when they lose, they're not like frustrating losses like we were seeing like kind of in the middle toward end of April, where it's just like, okay, the offense is finally on and then the bullpen blows it, or vice versa. It's like now they're kind of in it, and except for the other night was frustrating with the Nola start when they finally give him run support, and then between him and the bullpen they end up giving up 13 runs. That was a frustrating one, but for the most part, it's like, okay, you can at least take positives away from it. So, hey, the offense still put up 7 runs, right? So that's good enough to usually win a game. It's just, hey, the pitching, trapped the bed tonight. And that's going to happen from time to time. You're going to have those types of losses. And it's funny because, like, today has such a makeup of, okay, it's Skeens against Abel making his debut. It has the writing on the wall is they're probably going to lose this game, right? But I don't know, this is one of those games where it's like, we've talked about it before. I remember very vividly, I was at a game where Paul Bird beat Randy Johnson, and it's just like, you never know what's going to happen. Maybe Mick Abel beats Paul Skeens today. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and listen, Skeens, as good as he's been, he hasn't been exactly like he was last year, right? I think it would be foolish for me to say he struggled out of the gate, but he hasn't been as like nearly to the level of dominance that he had. Like he was dominant from start to finish last year, and he's kind of had some bumps. So maybe it's a day game. It's going to be the weather will be nice. It'll be a little bit warmer in the middle of the afternoon. Maybe those balls that kind of died at the warning track last night, maybe some of those get out. But just from a baseball perspective, today will just be a good day to just kind of like sit down and watch, because you're
I
going to
can't wait.
see, right? You're going to see a really young, touted prospect on the Phillies end. You're going to see a guy who came in year one and was absolutely dominant. We'll see. We'll see what happens if the Phillies kind of, if they can line the lineup right to be able to kind of capitalize on, getting the Skeens early. And the sooner you can get into that bullpen, the better off you're going to be. So I feel like if you can get to him and get some runs on the board early, maybe get a couple runs in the first, second, and third, gives you a better opportunity. Maybe gives Abel, an opportunity to kind of take a breath, sit down a little bit, and really kind of take a breath for, realizing that like I can kind of settle in and just kind of do my own thing. But just really looking forward to this matchup today.
Yeah, it's like I said, I was going to the game last night. I was more excited about today's matchup once I heard the news than I was actually about going to the game last night. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about it, but it's just like I love prospects. Like it's actually gotten to the point where like I will say I have with this partial season plan, you get free MLB TV with that too. And
Okay, so talk about this.
Yeah, it's great. So between that, so I have I have my regular TV, and then I have a smaller one that I usually have out in my kitchen. But during baseball season, I put next to my bigger TV, so I can watch all these different types of games. But I'll sit here and I'll watch the Iron Pigs. I'll watch Reading play. Like, I mean, you can watch all the minor league teams too. So when Painter was pitching down in Clearwater, I'll watch that. The other night, I was out for Painter's start on Thursday, and I found a little spot to put my phone so I could watch Painter's start there. So it's like I love prospects, and anytime a prospect who's has this type of potential or is highly touted like this, just I get so excited for these games.
Eric, I will tell you, the double TV is like next level. It's like game changing. So maybe like 3 years ago, we redid our den, and I was like, I did the dad move that everybody does, right? I'm watching games on my phone. I'm watching it on the iPad, and it graduated to like where we had our TV. There were windowsills on each side. So then it was like, oh, maybe I'll get a TV that fits on the windowsill. And then when we were redoing the room, I was like, 2 TVs. And God bless my wife, because she was like, sure. So now it's cable on one, Fire Stick on the other. And it's like, now it's like when I can get both, when I can get sports on both, that's like next level. The battle is normally my son with the Minecraft, Fortnite on one and the sports on the other. But like, even if we're watching movies, right? Movie on one, like the double TV, that's some quality next level stuff. It's
It's a game changer.
The other thing that I asked for was surround sound. And the surround sound with that,
it's a nice setup.
I've learned, Eric, if you don't ask, the answer is never yes. So
well, that's got luckily, it sounds like both of our wives are in a similar suit. They're both cool. It sounds like, because when this started, it was not necessarily I started moving the TV in there when it was playoff baseball and started the NFL season. Then I'd move it back, and I'm like, well, why do I keep moving it? Like, there's going to be 2 NFL games on. I'm like, oh, now there's baseball. The Masters are on, so it's kind of become more of a permanent fixture until we have people over. Then it's like, all right, then I got to move it again. But it's it really makes things work out. But it actually works out too, because then sometimes if the Phillies aren't playing, I'll watch a show with my wife, and then I can still have the Flyers, or if maybe I have a fantasy pitcher going that night. Maybe I got Reese Olson going. I'll put the Tigers game on a little TV when I can still watch the show with her. So it's very beneficial.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Listen, the second screen, when the second screen is not your phone, that's always good stuff. And listen, you're already paying for the cable or the whatever the subscriptions are, right? So it's just downloading the app and just kind of signing in. But like those are. It makes the viewing, right? And even like now when like the Flyers and Sixers haven't been playing for forever, right? But like last night, I'm watching the NHL playoffs, which was a great game that went into overtime, but like just that aspect of like having it on, just something that I love, man. But to go back, kind of got off the rails a little bit, but like the tell me what you've seen from watching the minor league, right? From watching Painter, from watching those guys. What have you seen? What are we looking forward to come mid-July?
I mean, Painter looks he looks sharp. I would say like his stuff is there, but obviously for not pitching for almost 2 years, there's still a little bit of like it's more. I would say like more command type stuff. Like he looks really good for a couple innings, then he'll give a couple hits, maybe a home run or something like that. But I'm not worried about him at all. I mean, it's just more so getting back into the routine of pitching. Because right now he's just pitching, I believe, once a week. So getting him into pitching a little bit more often. But his stuff's there. The fastball's still sitting, mid to high 90s. The breaking ball looks sharp in most cases. The other night I think he had 3 strikeouts with his curveball. So it's like he's looked. The stuff's definitely there.
Yeah.
The other ones I've been watching, it's Lehigh Valley has like a really fun team right now.
I was gonna say that lineup is really, really fun to watch.
Yeah. Between Otto Kemp, Justin Crawford, you even have like Stubbs is having a really nice season for himself. But I mean, he's one of those guys where I figured he would. Right now, he's playing every day. He's good enough to be on an MLB roster, but not good enough to be like a starter. So him starting in AAA, it's like a great scenario for him. Their pitching staff is really fun. Like adding Painter to it is obviously good, but they have like Seth Johnson's there. Abel's there. So there's a lot of good guys to kind of look at there. Redding has been struggling to start the season, but I'm watching because, Andrew Painter is, sorry, Aiden Miller is the guy I'm watching there. I was also watching a lot of Moises Chassé games. He was not having a great start to the season. Now, obviously, he goes down and needs Tommy John surgery. So that's a little bit disappointing there. But, Aiden Miller struggled through April, but he's had a pretty solid May. So I have not been watching as much Redding as I have been Lehigh Valley, just because with Painter there now and watching that lineup, it's been kind of fun.
Right. So real quick, so what I've seen, really, really impressive. Right. You're talking about a guy who commands the respect of that position. Right. A kid who's going to stand on the mound and be 6'7" and in the 220 range and just kind of be, it is, he has very Zach Wheeler traits, right? The between the delivery and the command and the power. So really curious when he does get here for him to be able to be on the same staff with Zach Wheeler and Luzardo and Christopher, like the guys that he's going to be in the room with are going to be guys that really command the respect of that position. And I think it's a really good environment to be able to bring him into. I want to go back to Stubbs a little bit. Marshawn has been, I mean, listen, we're talking about the backup catcher position, right? Yeah. But with the struggles that, Real Muto has had, right, you may need to kind of intersperse that guy a little bit more frequently than we have in the past. Is Stubbs the guy? Should Stubbs be here? Because Marshawn is not. I know Marshawn is kind of out. He's out. Correct me. He's out of.
Stubbs out of options. Right.
So like, I know that like there is a chance that like if you send him down, there's an opportunity that he gets picked up by somebody. But he hasn't been super productive, and he hasn't been bad, but he's been like kind of like eh.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this before with Stubbs, right? I mean, when you're playing behind JT and you're playing once a week, like it's really hard to get anything going, any type of consistency at the plate because you're just not seeing enough pitches. And I think that's why we saw Stubbs struggle so much in terms of offense. But Stubbs is really good with the pitching staff. He might be just the coolest teammate of all time. Like how well he accepted just hey, yep. I was here for a couple of good playoff runs. He accepted going down to AAA, actually embraced it, basically said, okay, yeah, I'm going to hang out with my teammates. He posts on his Instagram, they do bowling things. They're going out doing all this different stuff. So it's just like he's such like a good team guy, and I know the argument was in spring training, send Stubbs down because he's got the option, Marchand doesn't, and that from a business perspective makes total sense, right? And I know the whole thing is like, well, you can't just have a vibes guy be your backup catcher, and I also agree with that, right? Like you're not just going to have a guy for his presence in the clubhouse all the time, but I think we see it like handling the pitching staff is a big thing, and
It's a big
Stubbs
deal.
is good at that. But it's also really good to see him down there handling these younger guys too, because him catching Painter is great, right? He's going to be able to see that stuff. Seth Johnson, another guy like you really want to see. He's a guy that working with Stubbs might be a good thing. So I don't know if it's like it's tough because I think no matter who is our backup catcher is not going to be productive at the plate because they just simply don't get enough at bats. So I think that's tough, but at the same time, Marchand has not been everything that people I think thought because his short times in the major leagues, he always seemed to do really well. But if you looked at his overall numbers, he was not really a productive hitter ever in the minor leagues. So it's a tough spot. But it is good seeing the production of Stubbs if you need it.
It seems like it's mutually beneficial. I'm just like the purpose that he's serving and the guidance that he's able to provide, having had the MLB experience to be able to provide that for a young pitching staff that's at the AAA level for guys that you could be in a position that you might need to bring up. On some level, Eric, I think we have to just say like we are talking about the backup catcher, right? So like if we're having that debate, it's that guy. If you went around MLB, is you probably if you're listening to a show about the Royals or the A's or the Reds and they're talking about the backup catcher, you could probably replay this conversation and it's probably pretty accurate.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't want to say it's a meaningless position. Obviously, it's important, but like just the amount JT plays, it's relatively insignificant. The problem is like just making sure JT stays productive.
Very much so. Very much so. So, to just the one thing I wanted to talk about, or not one thing, but like off the Andrew Painter stuff. What is the kind of, if you had to look ahead at the schedule post All-Star break, you think?
I think so, unless there's like a need. But like we talked about earlier, like the rotation's in such a good spot right now that I don't think you need to rush him, and you can limit his innings, I think, better by doing what they're doing right now. I mean, just not pitching. Before he went down with the Tommy John surgery, he hit, I think, 100 innings in the season before that. Then he didn't pitch. I mean, I don't think they're going to let him go more than like 120 innings this year. So they're going to really have to monitor it. So I think right now, he's pitching once a week. And I think even if they call him up to the big leagues, he could potentially do that. But at the same time, you want to start getting him used to that every fifth day type thing, assuming you want him in your rotation next year. But I think post All-Star break would probably be best case scenario for both workload management and, to kind of figure out, hey, what is our rotation right now? How are we going to work him in here without messing up the flow of other guys?
Now, I'm just kind of skipping ahead to the schedule. So the All-Star game is July 15th. Right, so they have 6 home games post All-Star break. So you're going to have the Angels and Red Sox. But then those next couple series at the end of July are going to be at the Yankees and at the White Sox. So like we might be looking at like here's the window that I'm targeting. Anything between Friday, August 1st and Wednesday, August 6th. There's back-to-back series against Detroit and Baltimore at home.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, that might be that. I can't imagine that they would let a prospect like this make a debut on the road. Because after that Baltimore game, they go on a road trip where they play at Texas, at Cincinnati, and then play 4 games in Washington.
Yeah. Yeah, I think having him, and also just for like fan energy and everything too.
Yes.
Having him start at Citizens Bank Park, man, that's gonna be crazy. But
And
yeah,
like I said before, Eric, MAB paints, right? You got to find your Sherman. You got to have all your feelers out to all your major paint providers.
oh, absolutely.
I got to imagine
Capitalize on this.
there's a paint. Eric, do you remember the old school when they used the giveaways, the painter's cap?
Yeah.
Right? That was like the
Yep.
paper hat. And just to think about this as I'm like sitting here, the way that giveaways have elevated, like there are some like things that they're giving away this year that are like legit really good quality. Like there's some hats that they're giving away.
Yeah.
There's the vest that they gave away for Mother's Day. Like there's some real, like this is not like we missed out when we got like
there's
the
some really
little
good ones.
tiny wooden bat pencil.
Yep. Yeah, now and all the good ones are for 14 and under. Like I went the other couple weekends.
T-shirt.
The NOLA replica jersey thing. That was like I went with a buddy of mine who has kids, and they got that. I'm like, can I get one of those?
Right? Like they were doing the Fightins T-shirt with all like the cartoon, like the big cartoon faces. I was like, can we just give it away to everybody?
Yeah.
Like, just give everybody a T-shirt. Like it's a T-shirt. You'll be fine. But look ahead to like they're going to finish up this series today against Pittsburgh, and then they're going to go on the road out to the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
The Rockies. I mean, are the Rockies trying to lose as many games as humanly possible?
I don't know. I don't think they're trying. I think they're just legitimately that bad.
I mean, I say that tongue in cheek, but like,
oh yeah, I know. I'm trying to just emphasize how bad they are. That would be a series where, especially like, I could see there's two parks we're going to where I could really start seeing that power start to pick up a little bit in Colorado, right? And then going to whatever Sacramento, wherever the A's play now. The ball seems to go out quickly there too, so maybe that'll wake up some of the power in our bats here. But the A's actually are a better team than I thought they were going to be. Their offense is actually a lot of fun to watch. Between Brent Rooker, that Soderstrom guy, and even Shea Langeliers, the shortstop Jacob Wilson. I know you brought up a lot of Tony Gwynn type stats. I meant to send this to you the other day, but I saw a comparison. Did you see this? Like his first 80 some games, it was a comparison between him and Tony Gwynn, like eerily similar. Now I'm not saying he's Tony Gwynn, but I'm just saying like I know we've talked a lot about his impressive like strikeout numbers and just like how often he would get hits compared to strikeouts. I'll have to dig back through and send it to you. I forget the exact numbers, but it was cool to see. He's a fun guy to watch. Doesn't strike out and just gets on base.
Yeah, I think you saw a little bit of that power surge when they went to Tampa, right? To play when they're playing at essentially the Yankees minor league facility.
Yeah.
But like I look at this and I go, I like the opportunity to be able to kind of like, this could be 7 straight games where you kind of just get right. Like you have the opportunity, right? Because you're going to come back and you're going to play Atlanta and Milwaukee, end of May, warm up, right? But this Colorado team is just really, really awful. And you got to imagine, but like, kudos to the A's for holding on to Rooker, right? Because Rooker was like a guy that kind of everybody had their eye on. Coming out of not coming out, but going into that last year's trade deadline, and they held tight. They were not giving up, and this is a team that's sitting. I mean, they're sitting at the bottom. They're still sitting at the bottom of the West, behind Houston and Texas and Seattle, but not that far off, right? They're 4 games out. I'm curious to see how they play. And when is that? When did they move to? Are they in Sacramento? 2 years, 3 years?
I think it's I forget the exact number. I feel like with whenever there's a new stadium involved, I feel like you never really know. I think the plan was for next season, but I think it might have gotten pushed. I forget the exact number or the exact year. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I know originally the plan was 2026, but I don't know if that's still the case.
We'll see. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens. All right. Anything around MLB before we jump out?
I am trying to think. I mean, the biggest thing I think today is the storyline we already talked about, Abel Skeens. That I'm really looking forward to that. Anything else right now? You know what? We were talking about pitching staffs, and I know the one thing I was thinking about when we were talking about pitching staffs. The Dodgers ended up having 9 guys who could be starters. How many? They have 4 or 5 of them on the IL right now, and this happens every year.
Same as last year.
Yeah, exactly. So it's what is going on out there with pitchers and that? Oh, now Glasnow has always been hurt. Snell gets hurt all the time, so those aren't really all that surprising. But yeah, it just shows. Sometimes quality is better than quantity. So
yeah, I mean, I look at they kind of did the same. They kind of did the same thing last year, right? And do you think Ohtani comes back at any
he's throwing a bullpen?
Kind of
I think I saw
just
once
kind
a
of
week.
letting him bat until he just kind of feels his way out. Now I know he's been doing some bullpens lately, but I think it's kind of weird to say, but he's the kind of guy you just kind of just leave alone until you don't need him. But
yeah,
they're in a division, right, where the Padres and Giants are playing really well. They're all kind of in, and even not the Diamondbacks. I mean, they're all kind of just going to beat up on the Rockies. But the Giants, Padres, and Dodgers, if you're anybody, if you're playing in any other division in the NL, you're going to want to win your division because the likelihood that those wild card teams don't come out of the West is really low.
Yeah, I think they might have potentially 3 getting in this year from that division. That's a really good division.
I think it only kind of emphasizes that, right, how well you're going to need to play going down the stretch to be able to win the division, and for the first time in a long time, right, win the division in back-to-back years. And I feel like the Mets at some point are going to Met.
Yeah, they peaked really early. So let's see if it's sustainable. Because their starting staff, just on paper, does not seem to be as I was not impressed going into the season. But they have one of the best team ERAs in the game right now. And I really feel like Juan Soto's been okay, but he hasn't even really heated up yet. So you don't really know. I mean, he could still get hot, and they could still go on a little bit of a tear here. But what I love is having this rivalry between the Phillies and Mets again. I hate the Mets with every fiber of my being, and it's kind of fun having as much as I hate them, I love when we're both competitive at the same time.
I mean, it really is nice. It's nice to have, and it's also nice to see the Braves kind of not be a part of that conversation. That this is really that that I-95 rivalry that in recent memory, it's kind of hard to remember a time where they were both good, both at the same time. It was either one or the other. To have them both kind of, and it's also nice because, when you go down to the ballpark when they're playing, it feels like a playoff game. So
it does. Speaking of rivalries, this rivalry series in baseball is kind of hilarious. I
talk about it for a second because this was going to be one I wanted to kind of end on this.
So I get they're trying to kind of do it geographically, but in my lifetime, the Phillies and Pirates have never been rivals. I know they used to be in the same division and everything, but in my lifetime, they've never been rivals. And it's just very funny. They're amping up this whole rivalry week, and it's I kind of actually like the Pirates. I mean, they're they have a great stadium. Chatted with a couple of their fans last night. Their fans are knowledgeable and cool. To me, it just doesn't feel like a rivalry. If you want to get a rivalry week, get teams in the same freaking division. That would be a good start. And teams that actually don't like each other.
Yeah, all right. So one, to kind of piggyback off that, right? The fact that the broadcast did kind of a memoriam to the the old score tick at the top was hilarious.
Yeah, that was a good sense of
But
humor.
like, it seems like it's like some of these are rivalries, and some of these are just the teams that aren't part of the rivalries. Like you have like the Nats and Orioles, right? Geographically, makes sense.
Not even the same league though.
But then you have the Braves and Red Sox, and the Tigers and Blue Jays.
Yeah,
like that. Like the Guardians and Reds makes sense, right? In the same state. Cubs and White Sox, Yankees and Mets. It seems like it's for some, but not for all.
Yeah, I get they're doing it geographically. Like if you look at it, like theoretically, it would make sense. Like at least I guess the way we're talking here is at least the Phillies and Pirates play in the same league. But then you have these other geographical things. Like I know with the Mets and Yankees, there's obviously like that distaste between New York, right? In Chicago, you have the same thing.
Right.
But even like Cleveland and Cincinnati, yeah, they're in the same state, but they're also one's in the AL, one's in the NL. Like they don't really ever affect each other. It's just kind of funny how I get there's not a perfect way to do this because not every team will have a close geographic rival that they don't like. But it's just funny, like rivalry week, and it's like, all right, yeah, let's go play the Pirates.
Yeah, fine. Rivalry week. It's Rockies Diamondbacks.
Yeah,
right. Like
two new teams that no one else really cares about too much, so let's let them hate each other. Oh, I still hate the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, it does. Like, listen, it does. Like Rockies Diamondbacks, when you talk about a rivalry, doesn't hit like A's Giants, right? We know that like those two fan bases can be kind of at odds, right? You know that A's and or the like Dodgers Angels, like they're both in LA. Like some of it's like what you're saying. Some of them make sense, some of them don't, and it's almost like manufacturing excitement where it really isn't, and it just kind of like, I don't know, it kind of fell flat.
Yeah, it did. It's a fun idea, and I don't know how you restructure it because not everyone had, like I said, like, but it's just I just find it hilarious that rivalry week, and I don't really see that as a rivalry too much, but whatever. Let's get the sweep today.
Yes, let's go get the sweep. Let's and then listen, go tune in, check out the rookie, check out Skeens. It's going to be a beautiful day. Get outside and listen, on the way out, go Phils.
Go Phils.
Hey, listen to this guy. Tell me how you're feeling here. You're screaming.
I am stoked, baby.
You're screaming like it's still the game going on.
We're talking about the fightings here. The fightings. Said.
Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.